Good morning. Who's out there? Adam, Quentin, Guitaria, Kurt. Hi, guys. Good morning. Happy Sunday to you. Did everybody remember daylight savings time? I know, kind of crazy. Extra hour of sleep. How wonderful. Tools of the trade. I bought this cup in Nashville. Oh. Caveman says, yes, 4:30 a.m. He remembered the clock going back. Pretty cool. It's Sunday evening in Scotland, says Greg. That's pretty cool. Oh, greetings from Bosnia. Awesome. Sweden. Okay, somebody says, Oscar says, can I give advice on developing constantly on your guitar playing? That's a good question. I mean, just, it sounds cliche or silly, but I guess just playing all the time, and there's always more to learn. I mean, every time I go on YouTube, there's like more to learn, concepts. I would say I'm really enjoying the Jam Track Central lessons, which I have a few of myself, but like I bought Laurie Basilio's the other day, and there's some great ones from Matteo Sasato on there, and all kinds of terrific guitar players, all different styles, everything from acoustic to metal, So that's a good resource if you feel stuck or something. Go on there and pick up some of those lessons, and they're amazing. And they're not expensive, that's the nice thing about it. I like their format because you can go there and for anywhere from like $5 to like maybe 40 or 50, you can get like a little course. Or a $50 one is going to be really extensive and probably, provide you with a lot of study material for a long time. Vlad says hi from Toronto. What's up, Toronto? And Rick likes my mug. Appreciate that. And Nordine says hi from Paris. Bonjour. Good morning. Comment ça va? 1 a.m. in Bangladesh. Wow, there's a place I've never been. Never been to Bangladesh. Never been to India. Make it over that part of the world one of these days. What's in the cup? It's Pete's coffee. Pete's Major Dickinson's blend. Wake me up. Hello from Mexico. 7 p.m. in the UK. Let me know, you guys, how this time's working out for you. Works pretty good for me. And it seems like it's good for evening in Europe, and kind of Sunday afternoon seems to make sense for the U.S. I'm liking it. Gary says, do I consider using effects pedals cheating? And we're off to the topic of the day, which I'm sure will be the Joe Bonamassa comments that he made this week. No, absolutely not. I don't. It's a great scene, and it might get loud, where the Edge is describing how he comes up with stuff in his creative process, and he's showing. I don't know. I can't remember what the sound is, but he turns off all his pedals, and he goes, "Well, here's what the part sounds like with no pedals." And it's kind of funny. He's making a joke about it, really, because he's just hitting like, quarter note chords or something, and just banging away between two chords. But when he turns on all the stuff, it has the sound. But it's an identifiable guitar part in a song, and it's a hit song. So anyway, he makes the point that it doesn't really matter. Technical stuff is helpful in his creativity, his effects, and his different sounds, and his guitar rig and stuff. And then they go straight from that, and they cut to Jack White saying, technology is absolutely the enemy of creativity. And he just goes the opposite way with it. Like, you don't need any of this stuff or crutches to like write songs. And I think he talks about, that's when he maybe starts talking about Sun House and how he was just like stomping on the ground without even a guitar and singing, and that's one of his favorite songs. So that's art. There's no right or wrong way. There's two different guys, completely different, obviously both very successful, and they've got polar opposite opinions, which I think just speaks to the point that they're not for everybody, and they're totally the thing for some people. Effects. I mean, I get the point Joe Bonamassa was trying to make, which is like he thinks that which is a valid point. It maybe just he stated it in a way that was going to cause controversy. It's always, as with many things in life, there's a right way. I'm not going to say he said it the wrong way. He said it the way he wanted to say it, but it's definitely going to stir up some shit, right? And you kind of label, um, you know, say everybody that does this thing is bad or whatever. So anyway, my feeling on it is that his he has a valid point, which is like you should learn to just plug a guitar into an amp and be able to play well, competently, like know a whole bunch of chords and be able to play through some cool licks and scales and be able to play melodically and in time and with command of the guitar, and then maybe consider going to to buy some new stuff to alter your tone or whatever. I think there's a lot of truth in that. But having said that, what could get somebody interested in the guitar is maybe having some cool, like maybe I didn't really want to start on acoustic. I started on electric. I wanted distortion. I knew that because I liked hard rock. So it's like you could take it all the way down to, well, you should learn to play on an acoustic guitar, which was the traditional opinion, right? My parents didn't get me an acoustic guitar. I wanted an electric guitar. I got a little 10-watt amp and a Hondo Strat, and I had a distortion pedal, like right out of the gate. That was the music I wanted to make in my head. So if you would have handed me just an acoustic guitar, maybe I might have stuck with it. But I always used to tell this to parents of students that I used to teach a lot of kids. And they would come in and say, "What should I get my kid to play? What kind of guitar? An acoustic, right?" And I said, "Well, what does he listen to?" "Well, Metallica." No, don't go the acoustic route. It's a different instrument. So my point being, I had the effect of distortion and an electric guitar right out of the gate. I didn't want to play acoustic guitar, and that sound wasn't. I love it now, but right. So it's like I guess certain effects or sounds, like if you're super into you know Gilmore or something, and you're a little kid and you have an acoustic guitar, you might stick with it for a while. But what if you also had a fuzz and an echo, and uh, you could kind of emulate some of those sounds outright? It might keep you motivated to play more. So I don't know what the right or wrong thing is. It's just about balance. But I think his point is valid. People should learn to play well, and then don't try and throw money at a problem. Like if John Sear's tagline on the gear page for a long, long time was, it said, "Practice cures most tone issues." And I think that's coming from a guy that owns a gear company. He was being brutally honest. It's like, hey, don't always throw money or think that a new guitar or a new pedal or whatever is the answer to your playing or tonal woes. It might just lie in practice. Okay, so that's enough on that for a second. And as usual, I let the chat thing slip. Still figuring out how to use. It's a little wonky. It's like when it sits for a minute on my page here when I'm trying to look through your questions. I don't mean to miss them, but it's very difficult to actually kind of manipulate the slider that lets me get to all the different questions. It's going to be a problem right now. Okay, let me see here. I'm going to try and back up and figure out where I was. Just give me a second. Good morning from Sydney, says Glimpse in Space. Hello. And Portugal. Cloudy and SoCal. Yeah, it is. I'm loving the weather though right now. It's really nice to have a little bit of cooler weather and some. It hasn't really rained, so to speak. If it rains here, it's a big deal. And I'm waiting for that to happen. But it is just nice to have some kind of overcast and partly cloudy going on in the land of always sunny. Have I played the Caveman says, have I tried the Mesa Royal Atlantic TC50? I have not. It sure does look like a nice amp. I should go play it, actually, and just stop by the store and check it out just to see what they've done in that amp. It looks kind of interesting. Kemper plus pedals versus profiled amp plus pedals. I don't know what that means, David. Maybe you can. This is from David. He says Kemper plus pedals versus profiled amp plus pedals. The Kemper is the profiler, though. So I'm just not sure what you're asking exactly. Maybe you can just clarify and I'll try and answer it. So let's see here. MD Rock says, trying to buy your guitar in the UK, but they are nowhere to be found. I'll talk to the European distributor about that. There's a guy named Nigel that's over there that I can mention that too. I think they've sold around 100, which is pretty cool for a custom, for high-end guitar. And I saw many of them being made. At a time, like when I go to SUR, it seems like there's about 10 in production or something like. They can only do so many guitars. That's the other thing. They've got orders and custom orders and everything that they need to fill as well. So as far as my guitars, it's like they're just one of a number of different guitars that they're building. So they kind of crank them out as fast as they can. But it's been a really like people seem really interested, and I'm really happy with the interest in it so far. I'll ask about the UK though. I'll talk to the guys next week over there and say, hey, is there anything on deck to get over to the UK and where are they going? And maybe I'll put a post on my Facebook or something about it because they know what they've got on order and the approximate time that that they're going to be shipped and all that. Greetings from Russia. Hello, Russia. What's up? I haven't seen you since 2013. I did have fun over there. Let's see. What else we got here? Somebody says, good afternoon from Toronto. I'm meaning to get up to Toronto for a while. I miss that place. I like Toronto a lot. Toronto and Montreal, great cities. Do I think lefties who play righty are disadvantaged? So if you're left-handed, but lefties who play righty, does that mean like, so you play like a regular guitar? I don't think so. Rick Emmett from Triumph is like that, I think. The thing I think about it is that your strongest hand is on the neck. And you're making yourself do something, you're making yourself do something that's unnatural anyway. You're learning how to play an instrument using one. It's not like we're born to pick that thing up, and well, maybe Jimi Hendrix was, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you're making your hands perform a task that they're going to have to learn how to do anyway. That's kind of a natural. So I don't know why it should matter, really. That's what I think. And I think if you're left-handed and your strongest hand is on the neck, that could be maybe it'll be some amazing legato player. Caveman says, I like jam tracks. Yeah, I do. Jam Track Central. I have some lessons or I think that's what you're referring to, Jam Tracks, Jam Track Central. I have some lessons on there, and I really like it. It's the sort of simple, basic production that they do, and you get tabbed with the stuff, and then slow versions, fast versions. I've learned some great stuff off of there, from like Mateus's lessons, and I'm always trying to pick up stuff and learn. I'm a crappy practicer though, so I have trouble sticking with it. But I was working on Laurie's like a week ago, and I got to get back to it. Am I at NAMM with my new SUR in January? Says Mr. Smoking Strings. Yeah, I'll be at NAMM for sure. As far as I know, the only time I ever don't go to NAMM is if I get a tour that I have to. It's like, oh, I can't turn that down. I gotta go. And there's been like maybe 2 years in the last 20 when that's happened. Generally, January is a slow time for touring. For me, anyway, it has been. Kurt says, do I think the reason many amp lovers are opposed to modelers is more due to prejudice or bias, as opposed to the fact that modelers are not good? No, I don't think that. I think that I think there's different kind of people. And when somebody asks me, should I get an Axe FX or a Kemper, or they ask me about like more complex gear as opposed to more basic gear, I sort of look at them and say like, well, I just basically, you can just tell somebody, like, you have to ask yourself what kind of person you are. Are you a tweaker, or are you the kind of person that just doesn't like to think about gear that much? Are you a person that is more comfortable just turning a couple knobs and getting a sound than you want to spend your time playing? Or are you a little bit more like technical? I want to make presets and have every single thing dialed in. And with modelers, I think that's a good question to ask, because I think a lot of people buy a modeler to kind of jump on the bandwagon, or because it's going to be easier, convenient, or the wide range of tones and all that kind of thing, the convenience. But then they're disappointed maybe because they're finding themselves tweaking all the time, turning knobs and paging through menus. They're not playing as much. I've heard people say, like one guy said his wife, after he bought an Axe FX or something, his wife said, after a couple months, like, you used to play guitar, now you just kind of push buttons and like tweak, and that hit him. I thought that was pretty profound. It's like, not to say that there's ways to do the modeling thing and make it simpler, but it's like, I just think with the amps, there's a certain kind of person that really appreciates simplicity. They don't need a lot of bells and whistles. They want to spend most of their time playing. So a good, simple single channel, 2 channel, or even 3 channel amp to give them everything they need. Um, and you know, maybe that's what people that say. You know, also there's the tubes versus solid state debate, and also full range cabinets not sounding and feeling in a room exactly like a guitar cabinet does. All those things can be very difficult transitions for people to get used to. It's funny, I was doing Dave Friedman's show the other day, like one of his live internet shows with John Suhr, and they had their earbuds in, and they were talking, saying, "Oh, it's uncomfortable like talking like this with these things in," and then like pulling one out so they could hear their own voice better. It's not like plugging your fingers in your head, and I said, "This is what it's like playing with in-ears." Like try and get on stage to sing with in-ears in, and that weird feeling of being plugged up, and sometimes you want to pull one out, and it's weird. And they're like, "Oh yeah." Um, it's that whole thing, modelers, in-ears, playing through head. I don't know. It's just not the same experience as playing an amp in a room, and that can be tough for people that are used to an amp or that appreciate an amp to get used to, I think. Can I do a super budget pedal board paired with an under $1,000 amp? I mean, I've been thinking about that. Like, that would be a video that I should probably make or something. I mean, it's not like um, I don't. I'd have to think about it about what to do. But super budget pedal board. I mean, definitely. I mean, you can put together these days with the pedals that are coming from companies like Digitech and DoD and Boss. Such good stuff coming out. So under $1,000 pedal board, I don't think would be a problem to put together. As a matter of fact, I would say just start with that Boss. Is it the MS3? The simple one that's got effects in it, the switcher, and then I would add 3 pedals to that or something. That would be my simple under $1,000 pedal board. Because I think that thing's $400. You could get, a couple other choice effects, maybe certainly like a fuzz, and it's got everything in it. That's the thing. It's like you almost don't need anything. So just like whatever your pedals that you can't live without, add that to that MS3 thing. Put it on a board with a, good simple like an Ojai or something, power supply, something simple and light, and then you're done. As far as an under $1,000 amp goes, I mean, there's great amps out there. I would try, if I had to get an amp for under $1,000, it would probably be maybe like an old, try and find a JCM 800 that's not too expensive or something. I think they're probably a little more than that. But you might be able to find a used JCM 800 these days for under $1,000. It's possible, I would think, especially if it's had any mods or anything like that done. Other good amps for the money, I think, are PB Classic 50s. Certainly nice clean channel. They sound good. 59 Bassman reissues I really like. Those are probably easily had for under $1,000. My AC-15 was under $1,000. It was like $900. I bought it used, but the only thing about it is that it's a little more finicky, I would say, about the pedals that it takes and stuff. If you want a good pedal amp under $1,000, and a good core like basic tone, the Fender 59 Bassman reissue is pretty solid. I think those things always sound really good to me. Basically, the amp that Marshall was based on later. Do I know Alex Hutchings? I don't, says Tim Morris. He's the fellow that does, I think he does Jamtrack Central stuff and also works with Roland sometimes. I believe that's the guy you're referring to. I've never met him. Maybe at NAMM once, at the Boss booth. Might have said hello to him just briefly, I think. Hello from Milan. What's up, Milan? Beautiful Italy. Let's see here. A good vibe pedal, Robert says. Do I recommend? I really like the oh my god, I'm forgetting the name of it now. I've done 2 demos for them. Ugh, comes from Europe, and it's a gray one and a red one. Oh, it's gonna come to me. I'm sorry, I can't remember, but it's a terrific sounding vibe in a single, like it's the size of a Phase 90, small pedal. If you go back a little bit on my channel and go through the videos for like the last year or so, there's the new one, which is gray vibe something or other. I just can't remember the name of it right now. I really like it. I think it's awesome sounding. Readings from Edmonton, says Jason. Nice to see you, homie. What's up? I saw you have a Godin acoustic on the wall. Never seen you play it. Okay, so it's right here. I got this guitar for a tour last year with Michel Polnareff where I had to play nylon string on a song. Ooh, it's a really good tune. But this guitar is outstanding. These nylon strings are so good. I mean, these guys make terrific guitars. They make them in Canada, I do believe. And yeah, this one made in Canada. I remember this company from when I was a kid because the music store I worked in used to carry the Godin and Seagull guitars, which are like their lower price brand. But they were still all made in Canada, really, really well made. So anyway, I got this guitar. Kind of Steve Stevens helped me out, hooking me up with them, and I really have to do something with it, like video-wise for them and stuff, because they sent this to me on short notice, and I really appreciated it. I don't play it that much. I did use it on a solo on a song for my new record that I'm working on. I used it plugged in, and got it kind of a cool, cool nylon thing going for 16 bars or something. So I played it on there, but yeah, I got it really just for that tour, and it was just outstanding. I had a nylon string guitar that was a little hard to play, and it's typical. It was a small body, but it was an acoustic, and it was just kind of problematic in feeding back. And I hit up Steve and said, "Can you hook me up with Godin?" And he got me in touch with the right person. They sent this to me, and it's just they play like butter, and they can't feed back. They don't feed back because of the body design, and they just sound so even and pure and clear. They're like the ultimate live nylon string, at least for most guys doing rock gigs or pop gigs or something like that. They're outstanding. Not really expensive either. Great guitars. Let's see here. Luca says how to best set an amp to be used with impulse responses and the SIR reactive load. Well, you can set the amp basically however you want, as long as it's under 100 watts, and you can just crank. You basically set it up for the sound you want. It's interesting because the reactive load and load boxes in general, they give you the ability to kind of experiment with your amp in ways that you wouldn't be able to normally because of the volume considerations and stuff. So with the SIR reactive load, you can definitely like kind of crank your amp into the zone and get it. You can experiment with it like through studio monitors and get the like go. Oh, I didn't know it did this at this volume. And kind of really crank it into the zone. I was thinking of doing a series of videos lately about this, like basically different amps and crank. Like I did the video when I was at GitCon, for the Plexi, how to play a Plexi, or not how to play a Plexi, but play a Plexi on 10 or whatever. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, they sound better on 8," and they're right, So I thought, okay, maybe I should do in my Tone Secret series of videos. Like I've got all these different amps. Maybe I should let's get this amp to sound as kind of like the ideal dialed-in tone. Do it with a Plexi, do it with a Vox, do it with different amps, and call it like amps in the zone or something, and basically make a video about okay, here's where I feel like this best sound on this simple non-master volume amp is. So I might do that pretty soon. I've got that new 50-watt Marshall on the SL68, and I could definitely do it with the Comet, and even all 3 channels on my PT100. I could set them up and show why I sort of set them the way that I do. Yeah. What else? What else? Jello Man says, "Loved your Camel Toe demo. Thank you. That's a great pedal. Really interesting. I mean, the Red Llama, I'd never really messed with it, but and I feel sort of bad because I used it mainly with the amp set clean, and then a lot of people have sort of told me, oh, it's great with a crunchy amp, and then you kind of add it to smooth out the rough, because it's kind of almost got like fuzz-like qualities to it. So you turn it on, it kind of fattens and smooths out like a crunch sound. You're like, oh, I wish I'd tried that in the video. I didn't really, but you get the basic idea, I think, of the way the pedal sounds. I think it's a terrific pedal. And the Rhino is basically an awesome sounding screamer. So no complaints there. Mark says, "Greetings from Seattle." Hello, Seattle. Good practice makes a better period. Absolutely. I agree with that, David. And greetings from Greece. Hello, Greece. What's up? That's George. Let's see. Do I have days or weeks where I don't want to pick up the guitar? I do. Like when I've gone on vacation, like Hawaii and stuff, and I won't take a guitar. And it's awesome to get away from the guitar for a few days, And about 5 days in, then I'm kind of itching to kind of get back to it. But that's exciting. Then you come back to it, and you might not. And generally, I don't feel like I'm like I suck super bad when I come back to it. I don't. That's not my feeling. I feel like I need to warm up a little bit, but I feel like my ideas are fresh, which is like a different kind of. It's like not a bad thing at all to take, for me anyway, to take like a week off from guitar and just do other things, think about other things. I think it's healthy. Um, and Oscar says, thanks for replying and giving us your time. Thank you guys. Thank you for giving me your time. I'm glad people are here and they want to hang out, talk. Richard says he's in the UK. What's up? And hi from Miami, from Teresa. Hello, Miami. Haven't been there for a while. Mexico, Manchester, Australia. Greg's in Australia. And, Jared's in Bloomington. Gary says, do I consider using... Oh, God, am I really back that far in the questions? You guys, I'm so sorry. See, I was just going to answer the question about the Bonamassa question. The question thing really jumps around on here, and it's difficult to keep up. I'm really sorry. Okay, so I'm going to move a little faster here and try and get to more of these today. Joe says the Tone Talk chat with John Sir was really great on Friday. If you guys haven't seen that, John and I did Tone Talk. It's Dave Friedman's show. And Dave and Mark, they do it on tone/talk.com. It's on their YouTube now. It was archived and put up. I think we talked for almost 5 hours. So it was really fun. John's so awesome. I mean, he and I think he gets nervous about doing those things, and then once he's doing it, he had a great time. So he'll be back too, because there was a lot of questions that people put in, and he was concerned about answering all the questions, and so he said, I'll come back and we'll do another show where I'll just answer questions and try and move along faster, which is what I'm going to do right now. Can I say camel toe without smiling? Let's try. Camel toe. How'd I do? I think I did it. Can you guys laugh without smiling? Try that. Do that with your significant other or your kids. Let's see here. Frank says, great, Pete, you are a great musician and technician. Thanks, Frank. You are too kind. What's my approach to writing bass lines for my songs? Mark says. I love playing bass. It's like I'm a secret wannabe bass player. I just really think about, I kind of do the typical thing really, where I just think about the kick drum and placing the bass with the kind of playing with the rhythm. Not every single hit, but like whatever the kick pattern is, that's the first thing I start to tune into. And then I want to do something. I try not to consciously not make the bass lines too complex, because I'm not a great bass player, I don't feel like, and I want them to stay out of the way of the thing that I'm trying to demonstrate, which is usually some guitar pedal. So I try and just keep it basic, no pun intended. But basically, I keep it basic. I just said that. Yeah, and it's gotten more fun for me, though, as I've played more bass on all these tracks, because I feel like I'm like coming up with different ideas and stuff, and it's really cool. The other thing I realized is my friend John Button lent me this bass recently, which is the gold one you see in some videos, and I've always had that other bass, and it is such a crappy bass, the other one I have. It was just a Mexican-made P bass, and I always thought, oh, it's a decent bass, but I always had trouble making it speak through a track, and then John lent me this bass, and it's got a 60s P body, a warm-off neck, and it's got an old EMG active pickup in it, which it sounds like monstrously good, and so much more sustained and like solid tone. It's almost ridiculous. So now I know I have to get a new bass. Actually, when I was at Warwick, I ordered a new bass. So I've always liked that kind of Warwick and Spectre, since the '80s. It's like a very kind of piano string like bass sound, and it really speaks through a track. It's a certain thing. It's not a P bass, that's for sure, or a jazz, but there's a directness to it that I really like, and a clarity. So I ordered a bass from them while I was there, and I'm really excited about that. I won't get it till probably January, though. One of these days, I really want to buy an old P bass, like a mid-'60s or maybe early '70s P. Used to have one. I had a '78, and I sold it to a friend, and that was really stupid of me because it was rad. I bought it for $425. One of those ones that got away. Let's see here. Yeah, let's see. Mr. Smoking Strings says, "Hey from Vancouver, what's up? Melodic minor in a rock lesson. That would be interesting." Nick Hill says, "Hi from the UK." I'm going to check out some more questions here. What do I think of the wet-dry setup? That's coming from, sorry, my eyes are so crappy, from Dunboozen. Dunboozen wants to know what I think of wet-dry. So I used a wet-dry for years. There's a number of different ways you can do it. The way I was doing it was, head, line out, box off the speaker out of the head, taking a tap, going to a mixer in my rack, using Axe Effects for the wet effects, splitting out to a power amp into two 112 cabinets. So I had the center drive 412 and then the two stereo 112s being powered by a H&H power amp most of the time. It was really cool. It was problematic in the sense that I had three microphones on stage, three cabinets, three microphones, trying to explain to the sound guys exactly what the concept is and what you're trying to do. It was a little problematic, and then also I was in a band where I realized that the other guitar player, I was playing with Henley, the other guitar player, Stuart Smith, he was literally using a PV Classic 50 with a few pedals, and in the house he was more present than I was. He's an amazing guitar player, incredible. He's the guy who plays in the Eagles now as well, and with Don, but his guitar tone was so direct and just like I don't mean like a direct guitar sound, but it had this mono, straight up the middle, mid-range kind of impact. Whereas mine, I was trying to get all this stuff going, and in a big band like that also has two keyboard players and stuff like that, it was just like, this is ridiculous, this is overkill. So I went to a mono setup after that and realized that it was just better for that band. Now, the way that Scott Henderson does wet dry is pretty cool. If you want to check out the Scott Henderson, Tim and Pete's Guitar Show, he details this whole setup. He just uses a little Fender combo amp, and he kind of does a similar thing where he's got his signature Sir Marshall style head, 412 cabinet, takes a tap off the output signal, runs it to his effects, and then he just runs the effects into a little Fender combo amp right into the front of it. So he's kind of preamping a sound that's already got some gain and all that in it. And I thought, how's that going to work? But he literally plugs it right into the combo, and it's kind of a low, and his effect is a Boss SE70, I think. So he's mixing reverb and delay probably in parallel, blending that into the signal, sending it to the front end of the Fender combo amp. And it was so cool. And I'd never thought oh, that's, I never thought of that way to do it. I would think, oh, that'd be weird to sort of run into the preamp section of an amp with an already sort of gained up sound with effects mixed in. It works amazing. And then he's got the tone controls on the amp where you can kind of, dial in the tone of the wet sound. I love the lo-fi-ness of it. It's like, it just, when you run reverb and delay into the front end of an amp, they're more pronounced and present, and the preamp in the amp is going to compress that stuff a little bit and blow it up a bit. And it's not going to be like some perfect hi-fi delay reverb thing. It had color in it. It's cool when the reverb and delay are like dark anyway. So now you've got them away from he really likes to not have the delay and the reverb in the dry cabinet. He feels like it affects the way that his guitar interacts with the cabinet. And I think that there's a lot to be said for that when you've got that direct interaction without some effects and no A-to-D converters and all that kind of stuff. Just guitar, amp, cabinet, the sounds coming out going into pickups, you get like a better, easier control of feedback and things like that, more immediate kind of thing. And then keep the wet stuff separate. That's what's kind of, the advantage is then you got the control over the wet stuff separate, and it's out of your dry guitar signal. But yeah, just the way he was doing it, and he, I think you can hear it in that video pretty well. It's really cool. So I like that. And in a club setting, like for what Scott's doing, playing trio or something in a club, it's like pretty awesome because it's like you don't really have to rely on a sound guy or miking in the PA or like as much. He's playing loud anyway in a club. That works great. A setup like that in an arena or in some sort of like theater or something, I don't know. In that setting, I don't know if it's just probably still work, and certainly in a smaller band, like if you're in a trio, like I say with Scott, or if you're Eddie Van Halen, or something like that, where it's just guitar, bass, drums, and you need that big stereo split in a live environment. So that kind of makes sense to me more. But if you're in a big band with another guitar player, keyboards, and all this stuff, the wet dry thing is probably not necessary. uh, okay, keep moving here. What are some tips to mix major and minor pentatonic in one position? Um, well, I mean, just in the standard sort of blues box position, you're constantly doing that, right? Like sort of bending the minor third that shows up on the G string. You're always kind of bending that into the major. I guess I sort of do that all the time, where you're bending minor to major. That's just kind of in the standard blues box position. As long as you're throwing in that major third, like maybe the sixth and stuff, you can kind of do that in the standard. Like basically like that sort of hybrid. I do a lesson on this. Like the scale I use to play the lead 90% of the time or something. I called it was one of those 5-minute lessons I did years ago, but I showed all the notes. Maybe check that out, that video. It's one of my 5-minute lessons. I think it's in my guitar lesson playlist. Excuse me, I keep burping. It's in my guitar lesson playlist on in my YouTube playlists. Good morning from Brentwood. What's up, Brentwood? Any tours coming up? Just Japan. I have some gigs coming up at the end of the year, and then we'll see next year. I think there's probably more coming. So, my Japanese gig with Toshi Nagabuchi has been the main sort of touring gig that I've done for the last, since 2014, really. And it's really fun and kind of tends to keep me busy. So I've just been doing that, really. Okay. Not really, other than, the point that Joe was trying to make, I think, is that people should probably just practice guitar more rather than throwing money at pedals and stuff. And he's sort of got a valid point. He could have just said it in a little bit nicer way. And Joe's a sweet guy. So it's probably that's the other thing is like context. Like who knows? He could have been half kidding, like the way he was saying it, or you never know. It's like I don't think he meant to insult, or maybe he was just in a bit of a mood that day. Who knows? Any conclusions about it? Not really, though. I don't think so. I think he was just saying, people should practice more, basically, get good on guitar. I can't disagree with that. But having said that, I've seen more great players in the last 5 years than I think I saw 10 years ago. Like, you see all these people now. It seems like there's a really, really competent generation of musicians coming up in their sort of early 20s. That's what I'm seeing anyway. I think it was like there's this period where it was like, the 80s happened. It was like everybody's working on technique and shred and all that stuff. And then the 90s happened and kind of washed all that away. And I saw then a generation of guitar players coming up that, like, in the early 2000s, and to be honest, it kept me working a lot because I'd worked a lot on the techniques and stuff like that, but I also loved the Beatles. And so I wasn't too caught up in the whole shred 80s, mentality, like where it was like, who sucks now, I hate Nirvana. I was never like that. I always loved the 90s stuff too. I love that music, and I sort of think it needed to happen like that. It was getting silly music around 89, 90, really silly. So whatever happened with the Seattle bands was awesome. But then what I saw happen was a whole generation of guitar players come up where they actually really couldn't play solos, or they were more like songwriters and stuff. It wasn't like they had the ability to maybe go learn other people's music and perform it well. So that kept a whole bunch of us, I felt like, that could go learn songs and get tones and maybe perform solos and all that kind of stuff. That kept a lot of us in work, I felt like, for a lot of, like, say from 2000 until 2012 or something. It was like this whole generation of the post 90s where we could play. You'd see the same guys in LA going out for gigs all the time. It was like me and a close group of friends that would always show up for auditions. So anyway, that happened, and then I think once the 80s were far enough gone that kids being born now don't remember any of that stuff, and they don't have some stigma with the sort of it's like nostalgia now, like the whole shred gen. Like, there was nobody actively trying to get away from it. anymore. Then all of a sudden you start to see, and metal was changing and stuff, and you see these kids coming up and they were working on the chops again, is my point, and kind of in a completely different way than people did in the 80s, without the same sort of preconceived set of like uh, falling into certain 80s metal parameters or whatever. It wasn't about that. It was like, and this is where you see players like now you've got, I don't know, like Animals as leaders or those guys. It's a completely different thing where it's like there's a competency on the instrument that's insane. Or Mark Letary, um, where they're coming from much more of a jazz background and that kind of thing, and they can just like ridiculous on the guitar, their abilities. I didn't see that stuff 10 years ago, or not out there, where it was really visible on YouTube and stuff. There wasn't as many of those incredible players kind of coming out of the woodwork. So, if you guys agree with me on that or not, but I am seeing a lot of crazy guitar players these days. Let's see. Eric says, hi from the Netherlands. Do I have a favorite piece of gear? Man, I mean, like, the stuff I do with Sir is like, if I had to just play the rest of my life and have a career, it was like my amp, and I can get so many tones out of just my 3-channel amp and my signature guitar, So it's hard to have I have a lot of gear and stuff, some of my older guitars and stuff I love so much. But as far as like, if you said like, okay, Desert Island, you got to go, it's going to be like my signature guitar and my signature amp, because like those are the sounds that like, that I sort of help like whatever develop and get with Sir that work for me. So I would say those are my overall total favorite pieces of, as far as like, I don't really view it any different than like like a mechanic or somebody going to work. It's like, what are the tools you choose to go get the job done? Well, your favorite tools are going to be the ones that are the shortest from point A to point B and that you can rely on to get the job done. And so, yeah, I would say my amp and my signature guitar. Let's see here. Did I ever have trouble with excess of tension in my fingers, and how do I get rid of it? I've had a lot of problems with my left hand in particular, and I kind of don't now. Everything seems fine now with it. But warming up, going to a good sports medicine person is good if you have a problem with your hands at all, or tension, or any kind of tendonitis, or carpal tunnel, or any of that stuff. There's a whole bunch of stretches you can do, and I learned a bunch from a physical therapist, and also my friend John Button. He does all these stretches where he'll kind of put his left hand up against the wall and just push back very carefully, and then he goes this way with it. You just do it with your hand like this too. See a lot of the same stuff in that John Petrucci video, where he's like showing the stretches that he does and stuff like that. Maybe he does ones over his head. I can't remember, but I found those really helpful. Like just kind of, because the main problem I had is with tendons and stuff, and so just kind of like stretching out getting that kind of stuff going if you have issues. But I would see a good sports medicine person and say, what are some good things I can do to kind of like strengthen and deal with my hands. Okay, what else we got here? Joe's in Vancouver. What's up, Vancouver? Favorite overdrive boost for live performance? Well, when I'm using a boost for my amp, like a PT100, in the last few years, it's been a Klon type, and I've used a few different ones. The Bondi Sick As I use forever on my board. That's a Klon type's really cool. Was using the Rockaway Archer, which is the new Steve Stevens pedal, which is basically like a Klon type circuit, but with the EQ part's been removed and they've replaced it with a graphic. So it can be, with the graphic set flat and with the gain all the way down, it can be a completely clean boost, basically, without the sort of tonal character that the tone circuit in a Klon would add. So it's really versatile, but then you can, of course, do crazy things with the EQ to boost and cut mids and stuff like that, and pretty great boost. As far as favorite overdrive as well, I use the Jan Ray for kind of a light tweedy kind of drive in front of the clean channel on my amp. So mainly the Klon type pedals would be like either an Archer or a Tumnus or those different type pedals, the Bondi. Those would be going in front of the dirty channel on my amp, or sometimes I might stack them with like the Jan Ray into the clean channel of my amp to get a certain type of lead sound. The Jan Ray gives me my kind of tweedy light overdrive. I've also used a few different pedals. A Vemoram Rage E I was using. It's a distortion pedal. I was using that as it almost sounded like really, really close to the overdrive channel of my PT100 amp, and I would set it for like half the gain of that sound. So if I wanted like that kind of just almost think like JCM 800 on 7 on the preamp, like that kind of like rock distortion, but not too saturated. That was what I was using the Rage E for. It worked really well, and the Bogner Blue works pretty good for that too. Here's some of my favorite ones. Let's see here. Matt R says, how boring would it be if we had no effects? Exactly, I agree. Effects are fun. Can't have no effects. And hey, let's be honest, Joe's had big pedal boards too at times, right? Like really big. And he has a whole bunch of signature pedals. So, right? The guy doesn't have a signature wahs, signature drives, all kinds of stuff. FET boosters. Let's see. Greetings from Newfoundland. What up? Oh, in Wisconsin. Been to Newfoundland. What kind of wood is the best choice for a guitar body? It depends what you want. Obviously, if it's a Les Paul, I like Les Pauls to be in the 8 to 9 pound range, probably 8.3 to 8.7, something like that is ideal. Mahogany. So a lot of the mahogany is too heavy these days, I think is the problem. So I'm really liking this African mahogany that I've had a couple of guitars made out of. It seems to be resonant and feel that great mid-range that you want out of a Les Paul style guitar. On a Strat, I really like alder. I mean, the 50s thing with like a maple board and a swamp ash body is really cool. But with any kind of gain, I find I like the alder is just a really solid sounding wood. It's like very balanced and not too scooped for a body of a guitar. So you can't go wrong with like an alder rosewood board Strat. It's just a really versatile, good sounding guitar. So yeah, I guess alder and mahogany are probably my favorite body woods, depending on whether it's Strat Tele or Les Paul. Let's see. Chris says, been wanting to ask you on your tracks that I make for demos, how many different drum parts do I use in that couple minutes? Well, so generally I use Easy Drummer 2 or I use Stephen Slate drums, and I've got a whole bunch of MIDI grooves and stuff that I'll start from, and I'll kind of find the basic, like here's a great part for the verse, and here's a part that's pretty close for the chorus, and I'll string them all together, find some fills. And then I go in on the MIDI grid and actually start altering things like, okay, the kick pattern is not quite right in this part, or and then you go through and you kind of do that. And generally speaking, and I'll vary dynamics of things a little bit to try and make it sound like a real person. But a lot of the grooves that I'm using were played by a real person. They're like, they'll come from Slam Tracks or Loop Loft or these different companies where it's an actual person playing a kit, and then it gets converted to MIDI information. You just load those grooves into your browser, and then you can easily use them in a song, string them together and stuff. And they've got a feel because they're not quantized. We're an actual person playing on pads. So all told, I would say that it takes me about maybe an hour to put together a drum part, and maybe less, maybe 45 minutes or something like that, to kind of string it all together, get it whipped into shape. And then when I go to mix the song, I might put a little bit more time into it and go, oh, like I need to make the hi-hats louder in this one section or something, because then I've gone and layered all these guitars, and then you need to like tweak the drums a little bit. So, okay. Let's see here. Non-guitarists don't care about technique, says Chris. That's true. They only care about what sounds good. And once again, the whole chat is like, I'm not sure exactly why this happened to you guys. I got to figure this thing out better, but I'm going to try and get through the questions quicker here. Okay. Camper through a cabinet or full range type thing. This depends. I would say Kemper through, because you can run a Kemper through a guitar cabinet, as a stage monitor, and then you can run the other outputs with cabinet simulation. I think that's kind of the best way for me. Um, take the speaker out, run it into a guitar cabinet, and have no cab sims on that, and get a little bit of your pants flapping with a traditional guitar cabinet. You can even do just a 112 or whatever, and then send the other outputs to the house with the speaker simulation on them. I think that's probably the best way. Full range cabinets are cool. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I love the atomics I have and stuff, but I do think it's a different experience, and it's a little bit more difficult to dial in. That's all, and to get used to and make the transition from a regular guitar rig. What do I think about Nick Johnson and his crazy original sound input on his sounds and techniques? I don't really know that guy. I'm sorry. Now maybe you're hipping me to somebody I've got to check out. Nick Johnson. I'm not familiar with his playing. Gary says Joe has an opinion. That's fine, and I have an opinion too. And if it inspires you to create, that's all that matters. Basically, I agree. It's going to be different types of players. Some like effects, others like dry sounds. Trevor says he appreciates all I do. Thank you. Appreciate that. Let's see. Greetings from Motor City. Napkin says Joe has the nicest guitars and amps. He doesn't need pedals. Yeah, he's got a hell of a collection, that's for sure. Okay, more. I'm just paging through here looking for more questions. Please talk a bit about using guitar controls to shape sound instead of pedals. I mean, that's a great point there. That's Gil. So yeah, using the controls on your guitar that's something that can be a little bit of a lost art form. And I think it's really, really like an important thing. I've talked a lot recently about cranking amps up louder and like part of the problem is this low volume thing these days. Certainly in low volume situations, like I don't think guitar players are utilizing the controls on their guitars. If you did, it would be weird because you probably barely hear your guitar anyway. So you want to leave it on 10 all the time instinctively. But if you've got, say, a 50-watt Marshall Plexi or something, and you've got it cranked up to 7, so it's sounding great, now you're going to be a lot more inclined to roll down the volume on your guitar. And what ends up happening is Jimi Hendrix, basically. It's like when you've got great control over especially the volume control on your guitar and the pickup selector, and you're working with some volume, now you can play very dynamically. I mean, you tend to just, right? Because when the volume of the amp is up good and loud and stuff like that, you need to learn how to control the guitar volume just so that it doesn't feed back out of control, let alone you naturally sort of develop a dynamic technique with the controls on the guitar. So that's one thing I think we've lost a bit with all the pedals and kind of super clean amps and low volume. And then, what distortion pedal do you use to get you in sort of like a simulated version of a loud Marshall or whatever? I mean, it's cool, it's got its place, but it's like, right? I mean, like, you guys know what I'm talking about, the dynamics of somebody like a Hendrix, or, Eddie Van Halen's the same thing. Used to roll down the volume on his guitar for the verses, clean parts, Running with the Devil, right? And then roll it up in the chorus and explodes. What a cool way to play, right? Think about a lot of his, Panama, right? Like the bridge in Panama, all that clean stuff. He's not switching to a clean channel or turning off a pedal and getting a clean sound. He's rolling the volume down on the guitar. And then when he builds towards the end of the song, it explodes and he rolls the volume back up. It's just cool. So it's a bit of a lost art, I feel like, but it's really important to have a handle on in order to play cool dynamic guitar. Can I do a video on Celestion Neo versus Creamback? That would be a good video. The Neo Creambacks are some of my favorite speakers I've tried in a long time. Basically sounds like a great worn-in greenback to me. Let's see what else. Have I tried an Electro Harmonix MiG-50? The MiG-50 is basically a Bassman, as I understand it. I think I've played some. I mean, those amps came out in the 90s. Good pedal platform amp, but you're right. And that's why I recommended the 59 Bassman earlier if you want a good, simple, inexpensive amp. MiG-50 is a 59 Bassman, as far as I understand it, which is like really similar to a JTM 45 as well. They're just good, basic pedal amplifiers for sure. Let's see what else we got. A lot of people start collecting gear so much they forget to play. I mean, yeah, that's true. That's coming from Mark's Guitars and Gear. I believe that that's true to a large degree, and I am even guilty of that. It's part of my job, like to check out a lot of pedals and do videos and stuff like that. But sometimes I'm like, God, it would be nice to just, can I just take like 2 weeks where I'm not constantly like trying some new piece of gear. Instead, I'm like writing a song and working with the stuff I already have, you know? Um, I feel that a lot. When you're constantly tinkering with gear, it's hard to have time to just be creative and play guitar. Uh, okay, let's see. David says he has a Circe SL67, and you love the Prince of Tone. Prince of Tone is a great pedal. The King of Tone and Prince of Tone are both, what an awesome light drive situation. I'd love that pedal. I might have to put my King of Tone back on my new board, actually, because that was just always such a great pedal. My opinion about modeling guitars like the Variax or the Roland. I love my Roland guitar. I think there's actually something wrong with it right now. Like the last time I tried to get it to work, it didn't seem like the modeling section was working in it. But I have a Fender Roland Strat, and it's you need to cut a 12-string electric part really quick or a baritone part. You can kind of just grab that thing and it just works. It's cool. I think they're cool tools. I don't think they're like you're not gonna I'd take a real baritone if I had one, but if you just need to throw a part down on a recording and you need a lot of sounds in one guitar, I mean, I think that the video I did, I loved the tones that I got out of the Roland guitar, which was playing like nylon string and 12 strings and baritone and all kinds of stuff. It sounds cool, and I don't know, it's good stuff. The model guitars, good tools, quick and easy. Can I show you the the neck? Okay, this is a good question. Just one sec. I'll grab the guitar. So this is a question about the neck on my signature, sir. The person saying, "Can you show us the neck? Thin neck is scary." It's not really that thin. You're not going to be able to tell from looking at it like this, but to tell you the truth, most people pick it up and they go, "What?" I picked up this neck for the first time. I was like, "Why do you guys call this the Even C Slim?" It's not really that slim. So I think there's a little bit of a misconception there. I certainly had one. I tried it. John basically told me that this was a neck that he designed at Fender as a contender for kind of the American standard neck, to be like a good all-around comfortable Strat style neck. And he said, "I think you're going to like this neck." So I tried it, and I was a little scared by the Even C Slim designation as well, but it's not really, it's just such a comfortable, playable, just feels really great. So I don't worry too much about it. If you could pick up a standard, an American standard style Strat or something like that and go, "Yeah, it's a pretty good neck, it's comfortable," then you probably feel fine on this one. I'm not saying they did use, I'm not sure if they used his neck or not. But he told me that's what he designed it for. And it's just a really good all-around. I got very comfortable. I was having a kind of a crisis for a while, like trying to figure out what neck I was comfortable with. And then I settled on this one. It's the same neck that's on my the Hum Single Sunburst Classic that I have as well. I got the same neck shape put on there. Okay. Looking for more questions. Keyboard players have loads of sounds at their fingertips, says Chris. So why shouldn't guitarists have some tonal variation too? I agree. I mean, it's pedals and effects are fun for sure. I mean, I'd buy them on. I'd be pretty bored if I had no echo and fuzz. Have I tried the Seymour Duncan Power Stage amp? No, not yet, but that thing does look cool as far as like a pedal board, simple solution as for if you're going that way. Nick enjoyed the Tone Talk the other night. Awesome. I'm glad you did it. I had a great time doing it too. Always fun. Do Dave's show. Thoughts on the RK5 fly rig? I quite liked it. I thought I was pretty impressed with it. Setting it up the way that Richie uses it is the way I would recommend, like kind of into the clean channel of an amp and using it like he does it. It's pretty cool. Nice and simple. He obviously gets great sounds. Let's see. Just reading here, guys. Oh, once again, there goes the questions slipping around. Okay. Nice guitar. What pickups are in there? These are the Thornbuckers. So it's got a Thornbucker Plus bridge, about an 8.7K Onycho 4 bridge pickup, and the standard Thornbucker in the neck, which is like 7.2, 7.3 low output PAS style. And somebody says, "You want this guitar?" I know. I love my guitar, dude. It is. Love this one. Really good all-around guitar. Okay. What's the better amp for a guy that likes to get his clean tone from the guitar's volume and have the amp cooking? SL67 or Hedgehog? Well, you just have to ask yourself if you're more of a Marshall or Fender person. So the Hedgehog is like that modified, D style, a little bit more of that smooth gain type thing. Great sounding overdrive though. I love it. It's not a Marshall. It's a little bit more of that. It's like that cranked up Fender, but with more mids, and still the bottom end stays tight, which is the difference from regular stock Fenders. It doesn't get all blowing up in the low end. So that's the Hedgehog, and then the SL67 is that much more, upper mid Kerrang AC/DC situation. So just you ask yourself which sound that you like more. The Hedgehog is a more versatile amp with the bright switches and deeps and mid and the overdrive circuit and all that stuff. It's almost like really like having a simple two-channel amp. It's really an overdrive circuit, one-channel amp. Clean sound of a switchable overdrive, but it's basically two-channel-ish. So yeah, just ask yourself if you're more in the kind of boogie or modded Fender or Dumble kind of camp, or if you're a Marshall person. Musicraft built a modern C-neck, 12-inch radius, vintage tin. Love it. That's cool, man. What do I think about a 2-amp setup? One for clean and one for overdrive with AB. Well, it's great. The classic sort of Fender for clean, Marshall for drive, or whatever can be awesome. I did that when I was first starting with Chris Cornell before I hooked up with Sir. I had a Comet and a divided by 13, and then I added a third amp. Using 3 amps, but yeah, I mean AB between two, 412 with a 50-watt Marshall or something, and then like a super reverb, just a classic, amazing, awesome sounding guitar rig. Kevin says he hates Fender's neck. Well, I don't know. I'm not saying this is the neck, by the way, on the Fenders, but that's what John told me back in that was sometime in the late 90s or whatever. It's probably a completely different neck now, but this was a neck that he designed for basic sort of comfortable seat that he designed for Fender back then. What do I think about carbon guitars? Man, I know nothing about carbon guitars. I mean, and I know they've gone out of business now. I took a factory tour at Carbon when I was a little kid, and I was in California on vacation. So I went in the 80s. I remember going to Carbon and actually taking a tour of the factory when my family was in California. And that's my only, it was cool. That's my only memory of, I never bought one or anything. I even barely ever played them in stores or anything. Okay. Let's see. Thank you for the review on the Headrush. It was a big help in deciding what to get. Cool. I'm glad it was helpful. And the thing just slipped again. I'm not trying to skip. Okay, there, I found out where I was. Solid rosewood is very expensive, I would say so. Yeah, rosewood guitars, you don't see too many of them anymore. I mean, it used to be a thing in the 60s. Fender had some rosewood guitars, but yeah. And I don't know if rosewood's the best guitar for kind of oily or, right? And kind of, I don't think we talk a lot about those amazing rosewood guitars that Fender made in the 60s or whatever, the tone, It's not really, I don't know if I want a whole guitar body made out of it. Let's see here. I think 35 is too old to move and give being a musician a real shot. This is from Gabe. It says, assuming for a second that my drum skills are good enough, my attitude is right, and my ego is in check, do I think 35 is too old to move and give being a musician a real shot? I mean, I don't know. It really depends on your your goals, I guess, and your expectations as far as like earning income. Um, it's never too late to, if you're a young looking 35, it's like you can get gigs. I mean, I got gigs well after I was 35, but I guess I've already built up to that point. I don't know, really. It's a tough question, man. I mean, the problem is, I think, is as we get older, you just want more security and a little bit more creature comforts, and your expectations go up, generally speaking, as far as sort of the quality of life you want to lead. Generally, that happens to most of us. I think it's like, well, I don't want to, eat top ramen when I'm 35 or whatever. So it's like it can just get a little bit harder as your expectations for yourself and things you want out of life. Also, like having a family and having kids and stuff. It's like, how many years do you have? It's like to kind of get it together. Um, if you're like, well, I'm gonna be single forever or whatever, or I'm with a significant other or whatever, that it's totally cool with me being a musician and we don't want to have kids and we're willing to live on the cheap. Well, yeah, then it can be awesome. It's just not for everybody, and the not for everybody gets harder and harder the older you get, if that makes sense. So you just have to be honest about what you want. Have I played through Tim's Nailer? I have not, but I've played through other Nailers, and I think they're great. The Super Drive 60s are super awesome sounding. How many guitars do I play at a time? Well, just one at a time. But I like to have different guitars with different sounds around. Thoughts on Nags guitars compared to PRS? I don't have a lot of experience with. I've got a Steve Stevens Nags, which is a terrific guitar. I don't have a lot of experience with new PRSs, but people love them. That company's done really well. I've owned two PRSs, but not for a long time. I had a McCarty, and that was a really, really nice guitar. And I had a CE22, so alder body, rosewood board, maple neck, bolt-on, two humbucker situation. That was my first one. It's a really good guitar. I sold it to a student of mine. And then the McCarty, I used for a long time. That was a good guitar too. The McCarty was terrific. But that's my only PRS experience, really, as far as an owner. And somebody says they just put thornbuckers in a CE24 and it really brought it to life. That's awesome. I'm glad. I love hearing people, get the pickups and they enjoy them. That's terrific. It's just rewarding to hear that they've helped some people. Somebody told me recently that it helped them keep a guitar they were going to sell, and they got the pickups and they just love it now. I love that they were that helpful. Let's see. Just bought an Echo Bandit. Anybody know if the tape delay on that is any good? Going to use it for Bo Diddley beats. Echo Bandit Gold. Who makes that? I can't remember. Is that a Caitlin Bread? Or no? Echo Bandit. Maybe somebody will chime in here and tell us. I haven't tried that pedal. Okay, what else? Do I own any Randalls? No, but I like those Randall amps, like Def Leppard used in the 80s and stuff. Was it RG80? Those were good solid state amps. Oh, wait, I do own Randall. I have a Egnator preamp, and then I have some of their modules. And I actually have one of their 100-watt heads, like the 3-channel 100-watt behemoth that you can put the modules in. I have that thing. That amp weighs like, it is the heaviest amp. It's like weighs as much as an SVT. It's crazy. But I liked the Randall. I actually used the Egnator preamp. I think I had the Randall one first. This is going back 15 years, but I had one of those 4-channel modular preamps and the 2-channel tube power amp. And I had a rack build, and so when I was in the band 40 Foot Echo, that's what I used on tour with them. Was the Randall preamp and the 50-watt aside power amp. That was cool. And so I still have an Egnator M4 in my studio, and and some I haven't used it in a long time, but those things are great. They actually sound really good. Totally good preamp. Um, okay, what else? Question about my new Sir with the original Floyd. It reminds you of Guthrie's. Does Sir have plans to do more of that? The problem is there was a few things about that bridge in particular that you need to modify in order to get it to be super playable. So a couple things that like with the arm design that John isn't totally on board with, and also with the knife edges on the trim. So they need a little bit of modification to really work extremely well, which mine does now, but there's a lot of time put into it. So we're talking to them about that, and it's just not a situation right now where it's like a really a viable thing for production guitars because of some of those concerns, I think. But I'll just say this: I love the idea of having a locking. I've learned that if you've got good nut on the guitar and locking graduated tuners, if you've got the strings locked at the bridge saddle, it won't go out of tune. It's incredible, like how you can just flop the strings all the way down and just have still a standard nut. As long as it's a slippery, like Tusk or whatever, it works awesome. But the bridge has to be great. So what I would love to see is this style of bridge, or basically two posts, but something that looks like a standard, the Strat style tremolo, basically, but just that has locks for these saddles. That's what I would love to see. If somebody could design something low profile enough, and I believe Fender did it in the 90s, and I don't know why, maybe the bridge wasn't made well, or just didn't work out, or whatever, but I seem to remember them having a standard Strat style tremolo that had locks for the bridge saddles for the strings. Because what I've come to understand is like it's especially the G and the E string. It's like that's where a lot of your tuning problems occur, even in a standard. Like the 510 is a good bridge. This is a good bridge on these guitars. They're good, but no matter what, it's not quite the same as a Floyd, right? But then you got to go to a Floyd, so it's a whole thing. So one of these days, I would love to see a bridge that looked like a Strat bridge, almost indistinguishable from a vintage style Strat bridge or two post style, but with some simple way to lock the saddles. So that's the future. Trying to move towards that. Let's see. Somebody says, what kind of booster I should use to tame the excess mids of an amp? Well, that's kind of I don't know if I'd use a booster. I'd probably use an EQ. Something like the 10-band, that 10-band MXR graphic is a terrific pedal for kind of shaping tone, either into the front end and especially in the loop of an amp. If you've got an effects loop, much like a Mesa has got a graphic, you can kind of fine tune the tone. So I've had friends that have even used 31 band graphics with their amp in a loop, or like post line out, do a slave situation, then kind of tune the sound from EQ. I've experimented with it a little bit, and it's awesome. I mean, it's great with say like an old Marshall or something like that, and then you've got a reactive load, take the line out of the load and go and do an EQ, and then you can really shape the sound on the way to the say your recording interface, or maybe a reamp, power amp, or something like that. So I would try the MXR 10-band graphic, and it's got a boost slider where you can boost or cut volume as well. That would be probably what I would do to really fine tune the tone of an amp. Okay, let's see. A few more questions, and then I'm going to go. We've been at it for about an hour and 15. How would I compare my pickups to something like a Burstbucker Pro that's in most new Les Pauls? Well, I've got a few guitars with the Burstbuckers in them. I don't have Burstbucker Pros. I had the Burstbucker 2 and 1, I believe, are in my Dave Grohl DG335. And I've had I guess in my R9, that guitar had Burstbuckers in it. The Pros I know are a different thing. Now they got those new custom buckers. These I'm not familiar with, to be honest. I just found that the formulation of and we really learned this from Gil Yaron a lot. The formulation of the Alnico 4 in the bridge, that particular magnet. I should say the combination of having that and then an Alnico 5 for the neck pickup is really nice. The 4s are just they take a little bit of the shrill highs off, like an Alnico 5 has a real big bottom and very lots of presence. Generally speaking, right? An Alpha 4 has a little bit more balance of mids and lows and highs. So sometimes you want that, sometimes you don't. But I find in a bridge pickup, it just tends to, you can get up high and it's not shrill, like on the high E string. Just perfect amount of clarity. And then you can have the Alpha 5 in the neck, and that gives you that extra clarity on the top end, along with a bunch of other things. So there's so many factors to pick up design, though. Like you can tweak tone otherwise. You can have two Alnico 2 pickups that can be plenty chimey and sound. It's all a formula, so it's hard to compare, I guess, is what I'm saying. This just works for me. 4 in the bridge, 5 in the neck, slightly unbalanced coils. The outputs we've got. It's my thing. Let's see. Where do I place a Dumble in the mix of amps, and do I believe in the hype of it? I played a really awesome Dumble in Japan while I was there. It's an old, or very, very early Dumble combo. Sounds great, but I know that they're all different. That's one thing. Like when you talk to Sir about it, he's played a bunch of them. He says some sound great and other ones don't. And they were all tuned for the individual player. So one guy might play with his fingers and somebody else with a pick. And one guy might use a Les Paul and somebody else a telly. And it's like that Howard tuned each amp for the individual. So they're all over the map, I think. Do another Bogner Shiva video. I don't have a Bogner Shiva, actually. I'm not really that familiar with that amp. That's the amp that Justin used a lot, I think. Okay. Looking forward to a video for a new pedalboard. Okay, so I'm planning on doing that. As a matter of fact, maybe today I'm going to go in and write down a bunch of the MIDI presets and things like that for my old pedalboard. Because then we're rebuilding my board, and we're going to make a series of videos about it. So I think it's going to be cool. My main tour board that I've used since 2011, as of tomorrow, it's getting torn up. So we'll make videos and do updates, but I'm going to kind of go through it with Dave and document the process and stuff. And so it should be interesting. But I'm trying to slim it down to be about 2/3 the size that it is right now, and still make it super powerful. Just make it lighter and easier to fly with. It's a little bit crazy. Okay, okay, there is some information here that some people are writing about. Fender did do that locking trem. It was made by Floyd Rose. That's my memory, too. That comes from Mikey's. That there was a Floyd Rose tremolo that Fender had for a while that looked like a Strat bridge. Maybe we should talk to Floyd about that, actually, and say, like, what's up with that bridge you guys used to make? But somebody says Mikey says it was on the Strat Plus Deluxe model. So I wonder if I look for like a 90s Strat Plus Deluxe, if I'll find a picture of that bridge. Let me know if you find one, Mikey. Send it to me at PeteThorn@ymail.com. If you can find a photo of it, I might do a little looking for it, because I just have this memory of that bridge, and I looked a little while ago, like for locking saddle Strat bridge, whatever Google search, and I couldn't find anything. Couldn't find a photo of it or anything else that's being made now. So John was also wondering if am I going to use a gig rig for switching. I'm actually going to use a Mark V Musicom Lab switcher. I think the gig rig's great. Dan's awesome. That looks like a killer setup. The Mark V is just, I've got a long association with Musicom Lab at this point. Hyung Woo at Mulan and Musicom Lab has been really, really sweet to me, and the switches, great support and stuff. I've grown comfortable with using them in his products, and I know how to kind of navigate them. So he sent me one, and I'm gonna use it. It's also a really, really nice size. It's like the same size as the Boss ES8, so it's kind of thin and low profile, which is going to help for saving space on this pedal board. So as an independent musician that goes from job to job, how do I handle finances, lifestyle choices, gear, retirement savings? Dude, it's not easy. Some years are better than others, put it that way. And living in LA is very expensive. So this is like some of the things. I've seen a lot of my friends move to Vegas recently. You can afford a house out there, it's tough. And these are all things that, as I get older, it's like, but I'm no different. I see myself as like an independent contractor, just like a roofer or just somebody that does jobs where, you've got some security for, a few weeks or a month or 6 months or a year, and then you're on to the next thing. You just got to keep hustling and throw 100 things at the wall and see what sticks. And then try and put the money away. I've got a Live under means, says Kevin. Yeah, exactly. That's what you got to do. Like just because you got a tour now doesn't mean you're going to have it in 6 months. And you need to try. I've got an IRA and stuff, just like everybody, just trying to put some money away. But it's not easy these days. I don't think it's easy for anybody, man. The shrinking middle class and all that. It's difficult. I mean, trying to buy a house, like, forget it in LA at this point. It's like you need to be. I really think the only way that you can do it is you're either making. It's to buy a home in LA right now. You got to be making like 150K plus a year for sure, year in, year out, and that's just to get in. Like you're probably getting a 2-bedroom condo or something at that point. Otherwise, you move out to like go to Canyon Country or something. Probably do for less than. But LA, forget it. It's crazy right now. Real estate's nuts. So it's not an easy place to live in many ways. Stay broke but have cool shit. Somebody says, yeah. The stupid chat window just bugging me up again. Sorry, backing up here. Okay, so it's 1:20. I'm gonna do an hour and a half. I'll do 10 more minutes and then I'll get out of here. But okay, what's the long toggle type switch on the guitar? This one? Is that the one you're wondering about? It's just the 5-way, standard 5-way. That's the only switch other than this, series parallel. I'll put the bridge pickup in parallel. Push pull. Okay. Let's see. Thank GitCon for introducing me to Pete Thorn, says Chris. I'm glad. Upset man. I can't keep saying it enough. It was a really great experience. A lot of new friends, and I feel like it just really helped my YouTube channel. And so we get some great content. So I can't wait to go again. There's the Warwick Framus people and Henning were great hosts. It was really Henning's idea. He executed, put together that thing out of thin air and then kind of was executed really, really well. So, what's my favorite amp? I believe PT100, definitely. Beyond that, it's where my tone soul lies is with old Marshalls, basically. 68 through 73. I guess I could live with that tone forever and just make it work. It's 50 watt. Like I got a 73 50 watt recently. It sounds so good. Okay. Andrew says, loves my playing. Thank you. Do I adjust individual pole pieces heights on pickups? Not really that much. I've messed with humbucker pole pieces a little bit, but I don't, not unless there's like a real problem with the balance. And then single coils, you can adjust them just are what they are. Let's see here. When doing my demos, what drums do I use? So it's mainly Stephen Slate drums, Easy Drummer 2, sometimes Apple Drummer. I use it more to develop beats than anything, and then sometimes I'll take the MIDI from the Apple Drummer and then move it down into the Stephen Slate sounds or the Easy Drummer 2 sounds because I just like those sounds. And then sometimes I use Spectrasonics stylus for like more loopy kind of stuff, more electronic sounding stuff. Or if I need to quickly add a high or add like a tambourine or a shaker to something, I'll go into Spectrasonic stylus and do it that way. Or if you want to make it sound like electronic music or something, you grab a weird loop and you can go in there and do that in stylus. Just bought a set of Thornbuckers, says Joshua. Do I normally use the plus or the normal in the bridge? On Les Pauls or mahogany 24 3/4 scale guitars, I think the standard bridge pickup is fine. It's about 8.3 or 8.4K. In a Strat style guitar, I tend to like the plus model. So that's just my personal preference. But they both sound really good, and I've used in the Strat style model the slightly lower power one, and it works fine too. I just wanted a little bit more mids out of my Alder Maple Neck Classic S style Surs. And so that's why we developed the Thornbucker Plus. It's just, in that style of guitar, it's not as mid-rangey. The pickup seems to work really well, the Plus model. In a Les Paul or 335 or something that's got, maybe it's a shorter scale. The shorter scale has a little bit more of a, I don't know if it's just me hearing things or whatever, but I think it's like inherently got a little bit more of a buttery MIDI thing when you've got a 24 3/4 scale as opposed to the snappier 25 1/2. And then the snappier 25 1/2, I like the slightly hotter pickup. Uh, oh, there goes the chat. Slipping around. Okay. Let's see. Sorry, guys. Do I think Mr. Sir will make a Les Paul style guitar? I'm going to stay away from that one, but that's all I'm going to say. I do think so. Let's see. Oh, somebody says they recently came across my 5 Canadian Solos video from last June, and they thought it was really nice of me to recognize Brian Too Loud McLeod. He was a really underrated guitarist. I totally agree. I always loved that guy's guitar playing. Brian was they call him the Eddie Van Halen of the North. You know, he always had such a great tone and cool melodic guitar solos. Great guitar playing. So I love Brian McLeod. Check him out if you haven't. He was definitely underrated, and not in Canada. I mean, I think he was recognized fully in Canada for his awesome guitar playing and songwriting and production, and he played drums too, right? I mean, he was an amazing guy. Crazy way he used to record with the. I believe he used to use the Music Man amps and then record them, and then reamp them through or play through a PA or something, then mic the PA, and that was the sound that was on the record. I can't remember, but anyway, really interesting. Favorite new pedals? Somebody asked me. So the other day I just tried the new Ethos Trainwreck inspired pedal. Oh my God, that pedal sounds good. So you got to try that, guys. I was like, this has got to go on my pedal board. It's I can't remember what it's called, but it's their. You could go to the Ethos, the same people that make the Ethos preamp pedals, custom tones, I believe they're called. Yeah, go to their website and check out the Trainwreck inspired pedal. It's so awesome. Just sounded great. Have I tried BFD drums? BFD were one of my very, very first sort of drum sampler, drum plug-in programs, and it was great. I found the Steven Slade drums a little bit easier to use, but I'm sure BFD is whatever they're doing now is probably awesome. You know, funny thing about all these different companies like Pro Tools and Logic and Cubase or whatever, or BFD, Steven Slade drums and whatever, they all get better as time goes on, and they all get closer as far as the quality. Like they all learn from each other, I feel like, and steal things from each other, and and the benefit, we end up reaping the benefits as the customers, as they figure these things out. Um, it's just benefits us. Okay, what else? Any chance I might come to the East Coast for a clinic? I hope so. We are very soon going to announce some clinics, and I think I've talked a little bit about it before, but I'm going to actually today work on a little video kind of describing the concept of the clinics and showing what it's going to be about. But it's basically what a lot of people have been asking me for, which is a music production. How do I get guitar sounds, also drums, bass, write songs, and how do I put it into a song, relatively quickly, and what's my sort of my production techniques and my workflow and stuff. So that's all going to be in the clinic. And I've already kind of developed a track to do during the clinic, and I'm basically going to track a song live. That's my concept. And then talk a little bit about each part, how I'm going to do it, and then I'll lay the part down, and then move on to the next one, do a simple mix at the end, just talk a little bit about mixing, mastering. It's going to be good. Okay, guys, maybe one more question. Let's see. Oh, this is so great to hear. Acoustic Guy says, you got my signature guitar, had it since Wednesday after a band rehearsal and some personal time. I love it. Best guitar I've ever played. That's so awesome. It's coming from Acoustic Guy. I'm so glad. It makes me really happy. Thank you. Thanks for getting it, and I hope it gives you a lifetime of musical enjoyment. Yeah, somebody says if I'm ever near Sweden, I should do a clinic there. I'd love to, man. I'd love to visit Sweden again. Haven't been there since I was there with Chris in 2009. We played there with Faith No More, and it was great. It was really fun. Okay, let's see. So last question. Let's see. Have I ever checked out Mastery Bridges? No, sorry, I don't know what that is. Is that like a instructional thing. Do I like kitty cats? I got to take that question. I love cats. I'm a cat fan. I don't have one, but I wish I did. Okay, can I do a vid on the LA session scene? Jeez, is there one anymore? LA session scene is like whatever's happening right here in this place. It's like I think we're all working in our own little studios now, and I mean some people are still doing session work, but like it's like Tim Pierce, he's working in his home studio, occasionally going out to do things in big studios, but it's not what it used to be. Okay, I should go pretty soon, you guys. Like Texas hot antiquities. I do like antiquities in general. I have to say antiquities are great pickups. Never played one I didn't like. Some people are fine with cowboy chords. I agree, and if that's what you want to hear. Somebody mentioned a bridge on here. Said, I'm sorry I missed because the thing's skipping around. Patrick Carroll said they were really well-designed bridges in Minneapolis. Maybe post again which bridge you're talking about there, Patrick. I'm just not sure. My opinion on the two-dose captor, haven't tried it yet. I'd love to try it. I think haven't tried it yet. I'm kind of inundated with load boxes with the SIRS and stuff, so I'm getting better at these chats. Thank you. Yeah, I think, like with anything, I think you develop a system. So, keep the demos coming. Synergy module, says Glenn. I haven't really tried that many of them. I like the Plexi one a lot. I did try that. Tried a little bit of the synergy stuff. The Plexi one sounded really good. Let's see, humbucker P90s versus regular. I'm not an expert in P90s. I've tried the P94. I thought it was pretty good. The P90s on my new Mac Mall guitar are ridiculous. Amp tweaker pedals. I know those are supposed to be great. Aren't those the ones that James Brown designed, I believe? Ichiro was using one on his pedal board. He's the other guitar player who plays with Kiyoshi in Japan. And that thing sounded great. It was like the kind of martially rock one. It sounded really good. Okay. Anything fans can do to help get me in town for a clinic? Beyond just probably writing to SIR or letting them know, or your local, actually just if you've got a SIR dealer in your local town, or somewhere close to you, either drop them a line or whatever and say, hey, to put the interest out there, I guess. But I think once I've got a few of these clinics coming up, they're going to be announced soon where they are and stuff like that. Once I get a couple of those done and under my belt, then we'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be really great. I hope so. And then once the idea is developed and people start talking about it, I feel like maybe at NAMM this year, I'll go there and maybe meet up with some of the dealers, distributors, stuff like that from the different regions. And it's just like a word of mouth thing that I think will spread. Hopefully, if the clinic's good and I do a good job, there'll be some interest. And then maybe into the new year in the spring, maybe some more clinics. So I really hope so. I'm excited about doing it. I can't wait to do it, and I think it's interesting. Not just like well, hey guys, what do you want to talk about? I'll answer some questions or show you some licks or whatever. It's going to be like an actual, like real practical clinic with hopefully some good information. So I just have to put it together right and then execute. Okay, guys, I'm going to run, but this was fun as always, and thanks for tuning in. Come back next Sunday if you have time and any questions, and have a great week. Have a good rest of your weekend. See ya.